Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Fuller. Welcome. This is another Phil Factor, and we have the pleasure of having Karen Flam from the Donald Berman Maimonides Foundation with us today, who's going to tell us a little bit about the experience of working with Phil on a digital transformation that we did recently. So welcome, Karen. Nice to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So a lot of charities are struggling right now, having realized the impact of needing digital tools. The pandemic made that very clear that a lot of organizations were not fully equipped to go virtual, go digital. And your foundation was brave enough to take on this project. Can you explain how that came about? Was it your idea as the director? Did it come from your board? How did this all come about that you said, now's the time that we have to really get serious about digital?
You know what? I think that when you get into the groove of your job, and I've been doing my job for quite a while now, happily so, you don't really think that you really need to make any massive changes. And the pandemic was really a time when we all had to suddenly rethink everything we were doing. As a not-for-profit organization, we have a governing board of directors and a president, a president of the board. And it just so happened that our president during the time of the pandemic was an incredibly forward thinking corporate person, which is why we wanted her to be our president. And the first thing she said was, first of all, everybody in the office has a job, regardless of what's happening in the world. But I really think that in order for you to all keep your jobs, you need to go digital. I thought, go digital. My goodness, fundraising is a one-on-one personal, such a personal um, operation. That magic that happens between the donor and the person who's asking for the donation. How are we ever going to be able to do that in a digital way? And we realized that we were in major trouble. We couldn't do events anymore. We couldn't do anything the way we were used to doing it. We needed help, and we couldn't fix the problem ourselves.
And so your communications coordinator Googled us, and then we had a chat to see if we were compatible to work together. How were you feeling going into that project? Because we had a lot ahead of us. We recommended that we started with a website audit to really understand what your needs were before we jumped into rehauling your website. Your previous website was housed within the geriatric center's like hospital website. So the foundation didn't really shine on its own. And that was one of the first things that we recognized was we needed to bring the foundation's web presence to as a standalone entity. And so that was a big step. We also recognized that email marketing for you guys wasn't something that you were used to other than sending individual emails. And so there was a lot of new stuff for you to tackle. What were your biggest fears going into that?
Well, we found ourselves in the middle of a massive tornado that was COVID at a time when we needed fundraising in a big, big way. And we were getting a lot of negative press in the media, and we needed money. And we couldn't do it in the ways that we had, in the traditional ways. So innovation, we were brought kicking and screaming into innovation. And I think we were in the middle of a fire, so we needed firemen to come and help us, and we had no idea how to do it ourselves. This is not something you can do on your own. You need to work with a reputable team to really, I don't know, pull you kicking and screaming along the way. But me, I consider that I'm relatively good at my job, but this is a whole new ball game. And
Yeah.
you know what? I could have hired 10 people between the ages of 18 and 24 at that moment. Maybe we could have gone crazy, but we were working with our existing team in crisis mode, and so we needed a lot of hand holding and help. And I was used to working with people face to face. And suddenly we were investing a considerable amount of time and dollars to work with a group that we never even met. And for 2 years, we never met you.
That's
That
true.
is
We worked virtually.
that for me is completely mind-boggling, but it was exactly the right way to do it
Yeah.
because, we had to just become um, literate in all things digital. And that's what we did.
And one of the first things that we did together in order to get to know your organization better was we did that survey to your stakeholders. If you remember, we asked your volunteers, your staff, and your board to tell us what they really thought about the foundation and your mission and the work that you do. And as we always do at Phil, we bring that information together and we present it back to the client. And what was your reaction when you learned what people's impressions were of the work that you were doing and how aligned they all were on your mission? Like, how did that help not only the projects that we had ahead of us, but you as an executive director? How did that contribute to just really aligning in a really chaotic time for the foundation?
Yeah, well, it was incredibly affirming. I had hoped that that would be the result when we started the process. But, sometimes hope doesn't always pan out, particularly in a global pandemic. So it was great. We were thrilled to know that at least, the product was good. I always say that as a fundraiser and working in the world of philanthropy, you're only as good as the product that you have to sell. And we were getting hammered in the media, so it was really nice to get that affirmation. And it was the right way to start the project that I personally was so incredibly anxious about. So it was really a nice start. And I sometimes look back at those slides just to read them to just know that we have a whole incredible team of people who are behind us. It's not just the people who work in my office. It's
Exactly.
there's a whole world out there who believe in us and believe in our cause.
Yeah, and it was also, the reason we do that important step at the beginning to involve the stakeholders is because we also want them to be part of the whole ride, and if you kind of show up one day and present glossy slides to a board of directors and they don't understand the context, they don't understand why this transformation is happening, often they can buck and push back on certain things. But because they were involved from day one, I feel like they really embraced and encouraged all of the work that we were doing. They gave valuable input when we had board meetings, and I assisted, and I took their feedback into account. And we really listened to what everybody had to contribute, because as professionals in communications and fundraising, we know how to do our jobs, but we can never prepare, pretend to know your organization as well as you and your board members do. So that was really a valuable part of the process. What did you think was the most challenging aspect of it, other than trying to run a foundation that serves aging population during a pandemic? What maybe surprised you, or did you find tricky?
Yeah, so I I've learned over the last 2 years, 2+ years we've been doing this, that I don't like any sentence that starts with the word usually. So usually we do this, or usually we do that. And I don't really want my team to ever start a sentence with the word usually. So I'm ready to embrace change, and I want my team to be ready to embrace change. And so you basically have to put your ego in the garbage pail before you start this, because there's no usually about going digital.
Yeah, definitely.
It's completely new. So you just have to put everything aside and listen to the input from you and your team, and be open to be able to embrace what you're saying. And sometimes what you said wasn't stuff I wanted to hear. Like, oh my God, your logos and your format and your forms and everything you've been usually doing is just tired and old, and you have to change everything. So
Yeah.
you got to find the perfect mix of what you can change and what is unchangeable, because you have to preserve your brand while polishing it, and sometimes that polish that you use is kind of harsh.
Yeah.
So but in the end, I think it was our, first of all, the expertise that Phil brought to the table, and the our willingness to embrace the change that you were suggesting. And I think it was that combination that was the sweet spot that we found that worked for us.
Yeah, definitely. And that certainly helps our job when the client recognizes that, you just have to have a bit of faith in the process. And again, taking the the strengths from your team and the strength from our team and pulling them together, because while we did change quite a lot in a short amount of time, it was done in a really respectful way to the existing brand, to the values of the organization. Like, that's something that was really important for us. Was we knew where we needed to bring you, but we never wanted it to be uncomfortable or feeling foreign to you, that it was, wasn't the right move to make. So I think all of that was, we did do a lot in terms of social media and email marketing and website development and all of that happening all at the same time. But it was done, in little steps and increments, and it all built one thing on the next, which I think helped a lot.
With a lot of sensitivity, because you knew what you wanted at the end. And we wanted the same thing. It was just a question of getting there. And it took some hard work, and that was good.
It
Very good.
did. So, Lisa is your communications coordinator, and she's been such a great learner and taking in everything that we've been teaching her about the email marketing tools and social media. What immediate changes have you noticed, other than the skills on your team, developing alongside of this digital transformation? But have there been some immediate results of having a new website, having better online donation tools, and so on?
Sure. So, we're just still in that process. So, we just went through a period of a lot of online donations. And so we find out little things like what forms work and what forms don't work. And there's been a lot of give and take on what we needed. And sometimes it's complicated, and the donor gets confused, and they're trying and everybody's trying. So, but the way I look at it is, those are all opportunities for communications, because every time you speak to a donor, you're building on a future relationship. So even when they're calling me to say, I can't find the button to click for this or the click for that, that's great. It gives me a chance to talk to them, and I wouldn't have talked to them before, maybe. And so it's wonderful. It's opened up many, many, many doors. I also think that staff who've been in a job for a long time can still love their job, but the opportunity to learn new things energizes them in a phenomenal way. So my team was energized to be able to learn new skills and do new things, and that was an added plus that I didn't anticipate. So that made me very happy to be able to provide them with some learning opportunities that made them feel that they were able to do their job better. One of the things I learned about digital marketing and digital communications is the feedback is immediate. How cool is that? You put up something on Instagram or Facebook, and then within 10 minutes, Lisa's running into my office to say, oh my God, we got 10 likes, or we got this, or we got that. And you start to measure your performance in many, many different ways. But I love that immediacy. I thought that was so much fun, and everybody in the team was so motivated by those kinds of experiences. And it's really simple. And suddenly you look at things completely differently. You know, you're walking in the building and you see a little vignette of something that you watch somebody talking to the other person, and you suddenly are motivated to go and take a picture of something and post it on social media that you would never have thought that way before. So
Yeah.
there are magic moments every single day, and now we're learning how to capitalize on those magic moments, and we have tools to do that with that we might not have had before, and we didn't have before. And not only that, you can see an immediate return. So I think that I was talking before about magic that happens between a donor and the person who asks for the donation. There's a lot of magic happening in social media too. It gets a bad rap, but I think
Mhm.
that there's a tremendous amount of good that happens as well. And we could never, ever have done that without your help. So we're incredible for that.
Thanks, Karen. And I think there's, the data points that we're collecting over time that are going to help us understand visitor behavior on your website and interactions on social media and where people are clicking when they open an email marketing piece and so on. Over months and years to come, you're going to be able to collect that information and use it to better inform your choices as you go forward. So that's another bonus to having all of these digital
Is
tools, is the measurement, right?
metrics are incredible. I'm interested in knowing who's not clicking and why they're not clicking. And it's informing a lot of the sort of some very important decisions that we're making, and I love that too. You know, there's positive. You want to look at the positive, but you also want to look at the negative, because it's in the negative that you have so much room to improve. So I love that too. Those metrics
That's
are to be terrific.
That's great outlook. So just to wrap up, if you have any words of wisdom for any other organization about to take a leap of faith and go on this exciting journey of digital transformation, what would be your advice to them?
Uh-huh. Okay. So if anybody had told me that I would be looking and shopping around for a consulting firm to help me to do my job, which I thought I was doing so well, I would have said, forget that. But guess what? Was an amazing, amazing experience. Um, I think, Kim, there's the sort of synergy of your team is what really was so important to us. You know, we were introduced to a whole team of people, and they supported us, and they literally pushed when they had to. They didn't push when they weren't supposed to. We tried to meet all our deadlines. It's a give and take, but we always knew that you had our backs. And for me, that's really, really important. And it was the absolute catalyst to making this happen that we could never have done on our own. And I think that the relationship that we built with all of you is incredibly, incredibly special. And not only special, it produced results, you know, tangible results every single day. So for me, that's how I measure the success of any project. And it's how our board measures success. Sadly, you know, yes, we look for results. That's what we can measure. That's what we can count. And the tangible results happen very quickly. And they were very encouraging and very exciting. And it motivates us to keep up this good work. And I love this sort of tune-ups, the check-in that we have still scheduled as part of our work with you. And for me, that's really important too. So we are partners, we're a team. Our success is your success. And let me just say that that has really been incredibly, incredibly special for us.
Thanks, Karen. It's been awesome for us as well. And so my takeaway from that is really just making sure that the organization is aware of what their needs are and that they find a compatible match to go, and do that work with a team that they really feel can support them in the best way possible. And we're so grateful that Phil could be that team for you and the Maimonides Foundation. And it was an absolute pleasure. And it continues to be a pleasure to work with all of you. And I want to thank you so much for doing this with me today. It was great chatting. I'm always so happy to see you. And hopefully our audience will appreciate your candor and just the advice that you had for going into this type of project. So I wish you and the foundation all the best going forward, and looking forward to our next adventures together.
Thank you so much. Always. Thanks.